Hi and welcome to the video. I'm Dame and this is Dame Over, and I don't know about you guys, but I am extremely excited about what we saw in the reveal trailer for the next Battlefield title in the franchise, Battlefield 2042. In this video, I'm going to explain through everything that we've seen, extra details that you might not know. I've done a lot of digging to give you as much information as I can that has been released at this point by EA and DICE. We'll be taking a close look at maps, game types, the new class system that's being introduced, and everything else in between, as well as giving you my overall impressions of what the game might be and could be at the end of the video. For those of you that haven't seen the reveal trailer yet, I'm going to be having it playing in the background here with the sound off so I can avoid any copyright strikes. But if you want to watch it in its full glory, make sure you head over to the Battlefield YouTube page and check it out there. Let's get the nitty-gritty stuff out the way first, and we'll kick things off by looking at the maps. There are 7 maps that are being showcased on the Battlefield website. After doing some digging, I've managed to find out that all of these maps are going to be involved in the game type called All-Out Warfare, which we'll come back to later. So let's start by looking at one of the first maps, which is Kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope is set in Songdo, South Korea, and as you can tell from this picture, there are massive skyscrapers and a very dense urban environment. This is going to encourage lots of different styles of play, and you're able to zip line between the buildings as well. So you're going to have lots of infantry based action and lots of vehicles driving people around to get through the sheer scope of this massive map. You'll have access to the amphibious vehicles as well, because there are canals, as you might be able to see in the picture. And Kaleidoscope is actually the map you can see in the trailer, which has the massive tornado. Now this is a map event. It's not guaranteed to happen every single time you play, and the tornado can take several different paths. By all accounts, it is a completely destructive force and could possibly change the topography of the map, taking down massive buildings or carving a path through the canals, etc, etc. Hopefully more of that information is going to get released when we get the gameplay trailer which is coming out this Sunday. Next up, there is Manifest, which is set in Singapore, and it's in one of the main shipping lanes. So this map is actually very interesting. The cranes at the back that you can see in the picture are able to pick up some of the shipping crates and move them around in real time, which means that the map is going to be constantly changing. This looks like it's going to be a more infantry style based combat rather than having a vehicle focus at any point. And having the topography of the map changing constantly is going to be a massive deal for those people that love to get those big flanks on, and definitely going to encourage squad play, and especially those medics that are going to come in clutch when you get into those close quarters squad battles. As you can tell from the screenshot, this map is set at night, although it isn't a specifically night map. It is lit very well by floodlights, but whether these are fully destructible and can be taken down is still remaining to be seen. Next up, we've got Orbital, which is set in French Guiana. Now this is, as you can tell, an orbital rocket site. You would have seen this in the trailer as well, with the rocket taking off. This is one of the other maps that the tornado can take place in, and again it's going to take a random route, which can affect the rocket launch. It can either be successful or it can fail catastrophically, is the phrase that's being used. So don't be near the rocket when it blows up. Now we come to Discarded. Discarded is set in Alang in India, and it's just off the west coast. It has these massive ships that have been beached and are being stripped for parts. So you can fight amongst the hulls of all of these ships. And there are some deadly storms, according to the Battlefield website, that you have to take into account as well. Now, this is one of the parts of the trailer where we saw this massive metal sheet falling on a bunch of soldiers. There is also a submarine inside one of these as well, which you can play through. And frankly, it's really difficult to tell the scale from this map because these massive ships just look so huge. But it looks like it's similar to Kaleidoscope in that there's going to be lots of different vertical ways that you can traverse around the map, as well as lots of boots on the ground action. Next up, we have Renewal, which looks very interesting to me. There are 2 very clear biomes here. So this map is set in the eastern Egyptian desert, and as it's described on the Battlefield website, it has a giant wall down the middle to secure rich man-made agricultural areas, and this is the center point of the map. It says on the description you need to be prepared to deploy and secure access points and the massive gates in the wall, so that will clearly be splitting the map in 2. Now it's very interesting because there are 2 different biomes. I don't think there has been a map, but I can't remember one from any of the previous Battlefields that have had 2 very distinct biomes in them, so this is going to change the game quite a lot. There is more of an open desert on one side and more of a slightly urban and grassy area on the other. And now we move on to Hourglass, aptly named because there is sand everywhere. Make sure you check your swimming trunks because you're going to get chafed. This one is set in Doha, Qatar, and in a city that is currently being reclaimed by the desert. There is sand shifting all over the place. Whether this is a map event and it's going to actually move and change the map, it's very hard to tell, but you will be playing in the middle of a sandstorm, which is going to affect the natural light quite a lot. This is another one that will have dense urban environments, but there are other parts that are, like I say, being reclaimed by the desert, so it's going to change the topography again. And lastly, we come to Breakaway, which is set in Antarctica. Now, this is the map that is featured first of all in the trailer, with the Osprey crashing onto the landing site. It's reportedly the largest map in Battlefield history, with an area covering almost 6 kilometers squared, and with the possibility of player-triggered map events here, so you can expect to destroy fuel tanks and silos and create debris fields and permanent fires when they're destroyed. Now, I'm not sure if there's going to be any collapsing ice walls, any stalactites you need to watch out for, but there is definitely going to be that large jump-off point that we saw in the trailer before that man got squished by the Osprey falling out the sky. But because of the sheer scale of this map, there are going to be lots of points of interest and lots of clusters of buildings to help avoid any huge open areas that you're going to get stuck in, and to make sure the battle has a focus. But let's not forget that there are going to be very open areas that you're going to need the vehicles for, it seems like, according to the trailer, as we can see from the hovercraft gently sliding past the tiny little baby penguins. Did you see the penguins? And that's it for the maps so far. We've only had 7 released, and hopefully there's going to be some more that we might be able to see in the gameplay trailer, or at least in the beta, but I am very excited by looking at the trailer and what these maps could potentially entail. I think the map events and the changes to environment are absolutely awesome, showing that there's been a lot of work put into the experiences that players are going to get out of these maps and through the gameplay. And I think it's about time to talk about the game modes. So we've got 3 unique game modes, 2 of which we have information for. The first of which I mentioned earlier, is called All Out Warfare. Now, this is a merge between Conquest and Breakthrough, with 128 players on the large-scale maps with the big world events, dynamic weather, all of that stuff that we talked about before. Basically, a scale that hasn't been seen before on Battlefield. Now, what's really interesting is that these maps can be played in regular multiplayer in PvP, but there is also an option to play against AI. So if you're new to the Battlefield franchise and you want to get your head around the mechanics and how the maps are laid out, etc., you've got a chance to do that playing just against the computer. The next game mode that we have information for is called Hazard Zone. This is described as a high-stakes squad-based game mode. Now, Hazard Zone is going to be very, very different to All Out Warfare, in that it's going to seemingly have more of a focus on squad gameplay and possibly more boots on the ground work. It seems to be pointing in the direction that there's going to be a very specific objective in mind, whether that is extraction, whether that's capture the flag, search and destroy. Whatever that objective is going to be, we don't know yet, but for those of you guys that like a more competitive environment, it looks like Hazard Zone is the place to play. Lastly, there is a third game mode which is being developed by DICE LA, which is currently redacted. We don't have any information on it whatsoever, but it's being described as a love letter to the Battlefield fans. But that's literally all the information we've got. We're just going to have to wait and see, hopefully only until the gameplay reveal, which is in just a few days. So fingers crossed for that. Now, one thing which I think is an absolutely brilliant idea with these different game types is that on next gen and PC, you're going to be able to have 128 players, that's 64 players per side. But on the previous gen, the total player number is going to be reduced to 64, the 32 player per side model which we've had experienced in Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5. Now, this seems like a really good idea for those of you guys that are going to be playing on previous gen, and you'll still be able to get the full experience. Now, whether with frame rate and graphical issues it's going to be compromised is still yet to be seen, but fingers crossed it all works out as planned. And now to the really juicy stuff, we have the specialists. This is slightly different to the class system we've been used to in previous Battlefield titles, where we've got Assault, Medic, Support, and Recon. We're now being introduced to 10 different specialists, each with their unique specialty and a trait, but the rest of the loadout is still fully customizable. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to go through what each of these specialties and traits are. Each of these specialists has a backstory, and I'm going to say specialist one more time. We'll kick things off by having a look at Webster McKay, whose specialty is the grappling hook. Now, this can be used to gain vertical advantage over pretty much anyone from almost anywhere. Now, whether this grappling hook is going to allow you to fly up and then deploy a wingsuit, I don't know if wingsuits are going to be a standard thing for each of the specialists. Fingers crossed, because that would be really, really cool. But the grappling hook obviously has its own advantages, which I'm sure you can work out on your own. The trait he has is nimble, so it allows the player to move more quickly while ADSing, and further enhancing their speed-related advantages. Webster McKay looks like it's going to be for those players that really like to take advantage of the movement mechanics. Next up, we have Maria Falk, who is, for all intents and purposes, a bit of a medic. So her specialty is the Surette pistol, which you can see in the picture here. It fires a syringe at friendlies to provide healing, so you can shoot them from a distance with the syringe, and if it hits an enemy, it will do damage. Her trait is that she's a combat surgeon, so it allows the player to return downed allies to combat with full health when they're reviving. Now, this suggests that all of the other specialists are able to get up teammates or possibly just squad mates like we saw in Battlefield 5, but if you have Maria Falk, that means you're going to be able to return them to full health, sort of how the defibrillator was used in Battlefield 3 and 4. Next up, we have a kind of support style specialist in the form of Peter Guskowski. His specialty is that he has the SG-36 sentry system, so it's a sentry gun which automatically spots and engages with enemy targets detected within a certain area, and Sentry Operator, his trait, spots the enemy target when the sentry gun locks onto them, which is going to be super useful, especially in those defensive situations. So make sure when you do eventually get onto the game in October, the time cannot come quick enough, that you keep an eye out for these sentries, because it's going to put you on the map for the rest of the enemy team to see. And finally, we come to Vickers Van Dale. So his specialty is the OVP recon drone, which you'll be able to see in the corner of the picture there on the right hand side. This recon drone spots nearby moving targets, similarly to how a flare would work, so this guy can sort of be a recon class equivalent, and disorients enemies by using an EMP blast. The drone also has the ability to designate targets for lock-on weapons, whether that's solely going to be for things like rocket launchers with a lock-on, or it's going to be a similar style to the Battlefield 5 reinforcements, we're still yet to find out. And his trait is that he's got a movement sensor, so this alerts the player to approaching enemies both while boots on the ground and when piloting the recon drone. So this guy is going to be your one-stop shop for working out where the enemy are, and whoever's playing as Vickers Van Dale is going to have the responsibility to be providing all of those callouts for their squad. We are also very excitingly being introduced to a new system for customizing guns. Now, this means you can swap things in and out in real time rather than going through menus. Hopefully we get to see this in the gameplay reveal, but rather than having to pick your loadout before you start on the fly, you could swap out a silencer or a muzzle brake. You can change what front grip you want or what ammo type you have. How this is actually going to pan out, I don't know, but it sounds extremely exciting and is going to add in an extra dynamic to take into account while you're playing. There's also been official information released about the live service and customization that's going to be released as well. So Battlefield 2042 will have a battle pass with free and premium versions. Anything that affects gameplay like weapons, vehicles and maps will be free for everybody. The battle pass and premium tiers will only give you customization, but far more than you'll be able to get without the battle pass. In year one, there were going to be 4 different seasons with 4 different battle passes, and if you pre-order, which I'm going to go over in a separate video, you'll get a few extra bonuses as well. I think this is absolutely the right way to go with a live service and a battle pass. If you want to have that extra customization, then sure, you get to pay for it, but if you just want to play the game, anything that is affected in game is going to be exactly the same across the board. Now, as we've looked at today, and as you would have seen from the reveal trailer, there are loads of new vehicles. Some you will already recognize, but some new ones. They can be delivered to you by using a tablet like you do use in Battlefield 5 with the reinforcements, which is going to be very exciting. And gameplay in vehicles is going to be more effective depending on how many seats you fill with your squad, and you can change the loadout for each of the vehicles. So you could have an AA gun, you could have a gunner gun that will be affecting infantry more. It's kind of encouraging and definitely geared towards encouraging a whole squad to be involved instead of one person using a vehicle camping at the back of the map, which for me is a very encouraging sign. I am so far extremely excited by what I've seen for the new Battlefield. I think it's going in the right direction, and it is so much more of a step up from what we experienced in Battlefield 5. The heart of the gameplay, the experiences you get to live through while you're actually playing the game, are what have taken precedence here, which is such a brilliant idea, which is why we've not got any single player campaigns. All of the effort and focus has been on multiplayer, and so far it looks like that was absolutely the right way to go. Now, I've mentioned before that the gameplay reveal is coming out in just a few days. If you want to watch that live with me, I do stream on YouTube and on Twitch, so feel free to drop over to twitch.tv/dameover, drop me a follow or subscribe here on YouTube. I have different membership options where you can get your own custom emotes, etc. All of that information is available on the live streams, so hopefully I'll get to see you there and we can check out some more Battlefield 2042. Until next time, that's Dame Over. Peace.